Hey y'all, it's Wildcat 6305 coming to you from Ike's Treehouse outside of Augusta, Georgia. Today I want to show the historical board gaming Oil Wars and how I've put it onto my Global 40 table. My Axis now is Global 40 now. Of course, Oil Wars is an expansion for historical board gaming's Global War 1936 through 45. And however, now, well, do you own it if you purchased it, or is it possession? Either way, mine's in the mail. My 36 is in the mail now. But so I still have my Global 40 set up, and you know I'm still thinking I'm going to be playing Global 42. But however, I took the Oil Wars expansion, and amended it to fit Global 40. So there's really not a lot of rules that I've changed in what you find from historical board gaming set. I find, I'm still using their setup, their cost of oil, and I amended their setup and made a little chart here. So I guess first off, what is Oil Wars, and why would you want to change? Why would you want to add Oil Wars? Well, to me, I feel like it adds another layer, like an easy layer to Global 40, doing the Oil Wars, and I'll just kind of pan as I talk, because with your IPCs, now my background, I'm an engineer, and so we're all the time talking at work about capital spending and maintenance spending and yada yada. And so depending on how depending on what activity it is, it may be a maintenance activity or a capital expenditure. Well, kind of with that in mind, this adds that kind of dual budget purpose to Axis and Allies. So you have your IPCs, and those are what your capital expenditures. You're going to be buying tanks, buying ships, buying troops, placing them with your IPCs that you're making. However, the Oil Wars, that's going to be the oil is going to be your kind of your operations and maintenance expenditures. You're paying for moving the tanks, for the logistics of it, and it really does kind of add a nice little fun layer to it. I find it, in my opinion, I really have been enjoying it. I think that's probably one expansion. I bought it, and I think this is one that I really do enjoy. Probably want to play with, kind of standard. So, like I said, at first you're thinking, man, that just adds another layer of complication to it, and it kind of does. But at the same time, I feel like it gives you it. It doesn't. It does complicate it, but I feel like it makes it a little easier. So let's kind of go over. So, the setup, just like your setup in Global 40, you have oil derricks set up around an oil reserve. So this is the derrick, and then this is the reserve where you actually have the oil, oil storage facilities, and they suggest certain things, and this is kind of one of my amendments. I'm saying that the gold derricks are worth 3, and that the silver derricks are worth 1. And yet, let's see, I don't have one set up, but if I have gray chips under there, then that's just a plus the amount of oil derricks I have, not necessarily multiplication or what have you. Let's see, let me find kind of like over here in America. Over here in America, so you can't really see it, but sitting over there in Minnesota, Wisconsin, right there, I got some oil, and let's see. So I got 3, 5, that sort of thing. So each oil derrick produces 1 oil on the owner's turn, and then you can use that oil to move your troops. So the cost over here on the board, as you can see, so you got land operations. So move any non-infantry, any number of non-infantry units. It's going to cost 1 oil. Any number of air units one oil. Naval operations, one oil. Moving your strategic bombers, that's an additional oil. Moving your capital ships is an additional oil to the naval and air operations for the strategic and capital ships. And then if you're at war, you pay one oil. So the maximum oil that you pay per turn is 6. So that's the max amount of oil. So you kind of have to budget a little bit of how to pay for your wars, because obviously you need oil. And where does this come into play? Well, the Japanese, they start out with 8 oil, I think, on Japan. But if you look, none of their original controlled territories have oil derricks on them, so they do not produce oil. So first part of the game, there's the derrick sitting over here in China, and then the Money Islands have oil on them, the Dutch East Indies. So that kind of, puts more motivation for the Japanese player to get oil. But while I'm talking about the Japanese here, the one catch that's probably the biggest amendment that I'm having to make to my game is adding a lend-lease for this. And I've just gone ahead and just added a straight up whole lend-lease system. But you at least have to have a lend-lease oil, or for the oil system at least, if not an entire lend-lease system to lend IPCs and troops. Because until the Americans were brought into the war, the Americans have to give the Japanese 3 oil per turn, and that reduces by 1 oil for every turn that the Japanese make a combat move inside of China. So right off the bat, they can get 6 oil from the U.S. if they just don't attack the U.S. for, if they don't do a J1, by turn 4, that's going to be over. But they can at least milk the U.S. out of some oil for a little bit until they can try to capture the oil in China. So it just kind of adds a different layer to it, and it makes it fun. It makes you kind of have to budget out what you're trying to do. The U.S. is needing to lend oil to the British Commonwealth, which in here, of course, in Global War 1936, it's the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth, not necessarily UK, Europe, UK Pacific, and ANZAC. You have ANZAC, Far East Command, and then UK that make up the British Commonwealth. And so kind of using that overarching theme, the British Commonwealth shares oil. They share their oil expenditure. So all the oil gets paid for on the UK's turn most of the time, and then the ANZAC and the Far East Command get the benefit of that, but their collection of oil, because the Money Islands here, the UK Pacific and ANZAC, them taking these Money Islands, benefits all of them. So it just like I said, it's just kind of fun. It's something different. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Probably the biggest thing right here that I like about it is Germany and Russia. The Eastern Front, Operation Barbarossa, whichever term you want to kind of get into here, because Italy is like Japan. They start out with no oil derricks, and so they're needing oil. So the Germans are having to lend-lease oil to the Italians for kind of their war effort, and so the Germans have to get oil for their war effort plus the Italian war effort as well. And so they start out with three locations of oil. However, and their factories actually can make synthetic oil, so both their majors can make one oil, but still that's not enough really to sustain. It's enough to sustain them barely, but definitely not enough for them to be able to lend-lease to Italy and keep Italy effective in the war. So over here to Operation Barbarossa and the Eastern Front, for the German Eastern Front, coming into Soviet Russia, this is this makes it an important decisive battle. So it's not just that you're coming in and attacking the southern territories that are worth more, because I know inherently these southern territories have oil in them, and that's what they were trying to do in the game, and so it's kind of making them double important, I guess. But still, I think it plays well, because what's happening here is the Germans are pushing in to take southern Russia. They're trying to take the Caucasus and Ukraine. I can't see everything. All the names are covered up, but they're trying to take the Caucasus in this line up right through here. And so if they by taking that, then they're shutting down the oil that the Russians get, but then they're also funding. They also have a source for their war effort, so then they can lend lease to Italy, and then they can let Italy kind of run the Med for the most part. And this game is actually kind of working out that way. Italy was able to knock out the UK. They were able to knock the UK out of the Med, and they've taken Cairo already. Just disclaimer: I'm playing both sides, so I'm hoping I'm going to win. But but I really don't have a bias. Some people were like, "How are you doing that without having a bias?" I'm like, well, usually because I may play a couple hours a night at best, and so that's usually about one turn or like one nation. And by the time I get around back to the nation or to the next one, I've kind of forgotten what I was trying to do with the other one. So it's actually kind of halfway productive, I guess, but a lot of fun at the same time. So. But it kind of gives direction. So I found that sometimes new German players it's difficult when you're coming into Russia, because you have so many options. You're kind of bombarded with choice, which I'm a firm believer in choice. I love having options, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to make a decision. It makes you indecisive coming into Russia, because you got Leningrad, that's just like a couple of territories away, and you're like, man, I could probably get that. But then in the south, these territories are worth more, but Stalingrad's way on back in there. What do we want to do? And then you got Moscow. So it's like, yeah, these are worth more, but it's going to take more turns before I get that victory city, and then maybe easier to bounce up to Moscow. So it just kind of it's a little bit different. And shout out to General Hand Grenade. Does that look familiar to you? Anyways, so these oil fields have really been fun. They've added a whole different layer to it. And the last and final piece about this that I like is, you see there's oil in Turkey, and there's oil in Persia, and there's oil in Saudi Arabia. Sorry about that. I had to cut it off there for a second. But so the neutrals, there's oil in South America, and so it kind of gives you reason to come down to South America. It gives you reason up here in Saudi Arabia, in Persia, and Iraq, and Turkey. I think I actually added the Turkey well in there, or the Turkey derrick in there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But to me, there really has never been a real purpose. It never seemed like you gained anything by attacking a neutral. It just seemed like, why would I want to attack a neutral for either side, really? Outside of just getting the IPC value, which, I mean, is it worth turning a sea of pro, anti-U, making everything anti-U for 2 IPC? I mean, that really doesn't seem like a good thought to me. However, we put oil in them now, so that kind of makes it tempting. Of, man, I really need that oil. This is tearing me up. I'm getting it handed to me. I think I need to take some oil, and that's just another decision to make there. It kind of gives you a positive, at least some. There's a counterpoint to, oh well, I will invade that neutral there, because I'll get their oil. yes, it turns the rest of them against me, but I got their oil, and that's what I needed. So yeah, so it kind of adds a different twist to the game. But yeah, like I said, I'm really enjoying it, and hope to get my rules printed up, and or get them finished, typed up, and printed up, and I'll attach them to the link. I'll attach them down at the bottom once I get them up. I'll probably post this video before I get my rules up, but here's just kind of a quick flyover of the chart that I made, just kind of outlining all the neutrals of where the wells and the oil are, and I've kind of made this production chart. So I have my IPC production chart over here, and then I have an extra one where I have my oil production chart. And that's just so you're not having to go around count up your oil wells every time, and so that gets adjusted as oil territories go up and down. And that's not oil on hand; that's oil being produced. But yeah, but hope that encourages you. Like I said, or if you're interested in this, you can find the Oil Wars expansion at Historical Board Gaming, and it's under the Global 1936 expansions, and so far it's a pretty fun game. Like I said, I think they suggest using the gold as 5, and the I think they suggest using the gold derricks to represent 5. I'm saying 3. I think they might have said use the gold chips as 10 oil, but I'm saying the gold chips are 5. And so far it seemed to work out. I can't remember. I was toying around with the idea of just buying the tokens separate or buying the actual kit. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I got the cardboard ones. I mean, they're good quality, but if you're an acrylic nut, you probably won't be happy unless you buy the acrylic oil drums. But anyways, well, hope that helps you, and hope you found that interesting like myself. And got any questions? Post a comment, and if not, subscribe if you like, and hope all your rolls are ones.